The first warning came from a fleet of Zalithian marauders who thought they'd found an easy score. Earth was, by galactic standards, a backwater. One planet, a smattering of colonies, a few space stations patched together with duct tape and caffeine-fueled optimism. To the marauders, it looked like dinner served on a silver platter. They expected screaming. They expected panicked civilians scattering like startled birds. They expected desperate negotiations and offers of tribute. What they got instead was a smile. Not the polite baring of teeth that some species mistook for friendliness. No, this was the full, wide, unmistakable human grin. A grin that said, "We've been waiting for this." A grin that suggested the invaders had just volunteered for a cosmic punchline. Admiral John Saito stood on the bridge of the TSV Resolute, hands clasped behind his back, the faintest of smiles tugging at his lips as the invasion armada filled the sky above Earth. "Magnificent view," he remarked. "Almost a shame to ruin it." His crew chuckled nervously. They knew that tone. When Saito smiled, someone else's day was about to become very, very bad. At first, the galaxy mocked humanity. The Zalithians transmitted their ultimatum across every frequency: surrender or be annihilated. They promised to leave Earth intact, so long as humans accepted their place as vassals. Humanity's reply was broadcast just as widely, in every language the diplomatic corps could stitch together. It was short, simple, and delivered by Saito himself. "We appreciate the visit. Please, come closer." And then he smiled. The galaxy didn't understand. Smiles were confusing. Some species used them to signal submission, others as mating calls. But for humans, a smile could mean anything. That was the problem. The first skirmish went exactly as expected, if you weren't human. The Zalithians launched a probing strike at a Terran outpost on Luna. Their ships were bigger, faster, armed with weapons humanity hadn't even seen before. By every metric, the outpost should have fallen in minutes. Instead, the invaders found their systems fried by something called a microwave cannon cobbled together from repurposed satellites. Their boarding parties were lured into sealed corridors where humans waited with nothing more than pressure suits, flashbangs, and something called duct tape tactics. When the survivors limped back to their fleet, shaken and scorched, they tried to explain what had happened. "They smiled," one soldier babbled. "They smiled the whole time. Even when they set fire to their own station to trap us. They smiled like it was fun." The Admiralty dismissed it as battle shock. Until it kept happening. On the bridge of the Resolute, Saito watched casualty reports scroll across the holodisplay. They weren't human casualties. They were alien. Entire squadrons vanishing in traps sprung with the precision of chess moves. "Funny thing about humans," Saito mused aloud, sipping a cup of green tea. "We invented games where losing is half the fun. You know Monopoly? Risk? Poker? We practice losing. We practice until losing doesn't scare us anymore. So what do you suppose happens when someone tries to make us afraid?" "They become the practice," Commander Reyes answered dryly. Sato's smile widened. The invasion escalated. More empires joined in, lured by the promise of easy conquest. The skies above Earth filled with warships from half a dozen species. Each brought newer weapons, stranger technologies, deadlier designs. Each went home terrified. A Kroth cruiser fleet found itself ambushed by swarms of drones disguised as space debris. The Tsuara tried to blockade Earth's orbit, only to watch their supply lines mysteriously collapse after human hackers turned their logistics AI into a glorified cat video curator. The Kalari unleashed a planet cracker cannon, only to discover, too late, that the humans had painted fake energy signatures on inflatable decoys, leading the shot harmlessly into Jupiter's atmosphere. Every time, the humans smiled. Calm. Cheerful. As though the whole invasion were nothing more than a badly scheduled neighborhood barbecue. And that smile began to spread. Alien commanders started to whisper about it. Reports filtered back to their homeworlds, humans smiling as their ships burned, smiling as they counterattacked, smiling even when they should have been afraid. "What does it mean?" demanded a counselor of the High Dominion. "It means," said the lone survivor of a failed boarding action, "that they weren't fighting us. They were enjoying themselves." By now, the galaxy's curiosity had twisted into dread. Empires who once mocked humanity now debated treaties of neutrality. Armies once eager for plunder began pulling back their fleets. But Vrathor the Eternal, a warlord whose empire had never known defeat, pressed forward. "They are weak," he declared. "They hide behind tricks and smiles. I will wipe that grin from their faces." He gathered the largest armada the galaxy had seen in centuries, over 3,000 ships, and hurled them at Sol. The galaxy held its breath. Surely, this would be the end of humanity. Surely no amount of duct tape, poker faces, or ironic one-liners could stop such overwhelming force. And then the humans smiled again. Admiral Saito stood at the command dais, his officers waiting for orders. Outside, the sky was aflame with enemy signatures. "Well," he said lightly, "they certainly brought enough ships to make it interesting." Reyes frowned. "Permission to ask, sir, are we actually ready for this?" Sato's smile never wavered. "Oh, Commander. We've been ready since the day they thought we weren't worth noticing." And then he gave the order. Across the system, hidden stations powered up. Asteroids shifted course, carefully disguised for years as mining operations. Old satellites, thought to be derelict, unfolded into weapons arrays. Colonies once dismissed as underdeveloped revealed themselves as heavily armed fortresses. The invasion fleet charged straight into a trap laid not in days, not in months, but in decades. Because while the galaxy had been laughing at humanity, humanity had been preparing. The battle that followed became legend. Alien ships fell into kill zones mapped with terrifying precision. Supply chains collapsed as human hackers rewrote entire command networks mid-battle. Whole wings of invaders vanished when asteroid belts erupted with hidden railguns. And through it all, humanity smiled. Admiral Sato's calm orders carried the weight of inevitability. "Ship 3, adjust fire." "Nicely done. Forward units, don't overextend, we want them panicked, not extinct. And remember, everyone, smile for the cameras." The cameras, of course, were human. They recorded every grin, every witty quip, every moment of human soldiers cheerfully dismantling armadas 10 times their size. Within days, the footage was everywhere. Even alien homeworlds couldn't suppress it. The galaxy watched, horrified, as humans treated the greatest invasion in history like game night. When the dust settled, Vrathor's fleet was gone. His empire fractured. And humanity? Humanity was still smiling. At the Galactic Council that followed, alien delegates trembled as Admiral Saito entered the chamber. He bowed politely, smiled warmly, and spoke in that same calm voice. "Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed species of the galaxy, thank you for visiting. Truly, it was entertaining." He paused, letting the silence stretch. "But please understand, when we smile, it isn't because we're not afraid. It's because you should be." The chamber erupted in whispers, protests, pleas. Saito only smiled wider. And here was the final twist. The invasion hadn't been a catastrophe. It hadn't even been an accident. It had been an opportunity. For decades, humanity had been underestimated, ignored, patronized. Now, thanks to the invasion, every power in the galaxy had seen the truth. Humans weren't prey. They weren't even competitors. They were predators in disguise, polite predators who smiled even as they bared their teeth. Because the entire defense had been staged. Humanity had known the invasion was coming. They had even nudged it along, leaking just enough information to tempt the greedy and the arrogant. It was never about survival. It was about reputation. and reputation in the galaxy was more powerful than any fleet. On the return flight to Earth, Commander Reyes finally asked what everyone was thinking. "Admiral, why the smile? Why keep smiling, even when things got ugly?" Saito looked out at the stars, his grin as calm and unshakable as ever. "Because, Commander," he said softly, "fear is contagious. But so is confidence. And nothing unnerves an enemy faster than realizing you're smiling while you're planning their funeral." He turned back, eyes gleaming with quiet menace. "And besides, this was just the opening move." The crew stared. "Opening move?" Sato's smile widened to its fullest. "Oh yes. We weren't just defending Earth. We were inviting them in, testing their tactics, mapping their weaknesses. Every empire that attacked us is now an open book." He raised his cup in a toast. "To humanity's new role in the galaxy," he said cheerfully. "Strategic apex predator." And as the stars wheeled past, Earth smiled with him.